What's going on, guys? In today's video, it's going to be all about jig fishing and specifically finesse jig fishing. It's something I've developed over the past few years and grown a lot of confidence with, and it's something I throw in my tournaments and when I'm just fun fishing out on the lake. There's a lot that goes into these jigs, so I'm going to share you a couple of my favorite ones and a couple of the trailers I use, along with the setups to make you successful out there in the water. So y'all stay tuned. Hopefully a couple of these tips will help you in your jig fishing this upcoming season. Alright guys, let's go ahead and jump into my two favorite jig fishing setups, and then we'll talk a little bit about the jigs and some of the trailers and things I look for when I'm out there on the water. So my first jig fishing setup will have to be this G Loomis 854 NRX. This is truly the most sensitive rod money can buy. It's a phenomenal rod. This one is a 7-1 extra fast heavy. It's not a true heavy, but it works in all the ways I can ask it to. I pair that up with 12-pound Sunline Sniper, and I have a 7 2-to-1 Shimano Chronarch. A little bit older reel. Any of the newer ones will do just as well. And this is a combo I'm going to use when I'm fishing open water, such as rocks, and just going down banks and dragging hard spots with that finesse football jig we'll talk about in a minute. So that is my open water jig fishing setup right there. My second setup right here is another NRX. This one is I believe it is a 873. So this is a 7.3 medium heavy. It's kind of more of a heavy to me, and this is one I'm going to throw on a little bit beefier jig when I see a lay down or I'm trying to put it under a dock. Just put it a little bit further into cover. The 7.3 medium heavy extra fast gives me a little bit more backbone to get those fish out of that cover and just kind of get them in the boat quicker. I have that paired up with a Shimano Bantam A. This is also a 7-speed reel, and I'll actually bump up to 16-pound Sunline Sniper on this just because I'm fishing around a lot more cover. So let's go ahead and talk about the two jigs that I typically like to throw. Now, in this video, I'm primarily covering finesse jigs. These aren't jigs you're going to really want to take on, per se, the TVA or anywhere that you're fishing around a lot bigger fish and just kind of more largemouth oriented. These are kind of spotted bass, clear water, finesse jigs. The first one I'm going to opt for on the open water setup is actually a Beast Coast open water sniper jig. This is a tungsten finesse football jig. Tungsten jigs have been getting a lot of popularity over the past few years. This one happens to be my favorite. It actually does not have a weed guard, as you can see on there. It's completely exposed, which I like when I'm dragging just rocks or little hard spots, gravel, whatever that may be. This jig gets bit in an incredible way when a lot of other jigs won't. So open water, when I'm dragging just rocks and things like that, that open water finesse jig by Beast Coast is definitely a winner in my book. They have some incredible colors. This one's just green pumpkin. I typically keep it pretty simple, but I will kind of adjust my trailer color when I do see the crawfish are either red or they have a little bit of blue hue or just whatever color they happen to be. I will adjust the trailer rather than having to get 50 different color jigs to just meet every color crawfish. So when I do see them spinning up orange crawfish, I'll simply put an orange trailer on there and I'm good to go. Now, my second jig that I like to throw in cover, this is a War Eagle finesse jig. Super compact, has a little bit of the skirt coming above the head and a pretty stout weed guard, along with I believe is a 2-aught Gamakatsu hook. This one is excellent if you see a laydown, see a boat dock, just anywhere you want to put a jig into the cover. Having that weed guard right there makes it extremely weedless, and it also still has that finesse presentation I like to be able to get those fish to bite even when they are extremely pressured. So those are the two different jigs that I prefer to throw in clean water, such as Lanier, Hartwell. We actually had a tournament this past weekend on Lake Norman. These fish were acting super funny, and when we were fishing rocky secondary points, I opted for this open water finesse jig just to cover water, and I was often almost just reeling it along the bottom, getting a lot of really good bites on that. But when we came to a boat dock or I saw a lay down on the water, I simply picked up this setup right here and was able to put that jig in some really high percentage areas, knowing I can get that fish to bite and also get my jig in and out of there pretty efficiently. So those are two setups I would definitely consider when you are finesse jig fishing in clean water. Alright guys, in this last portion of the video, I want to take a couple of minutes to go over a few of the trailers I will be using when I am throwing these jigs. Pretty much 90% of the time I will be throwing the Gary Yamamoto. This is just a simple double tail grub. It's been around for plenty of years. It's no secret, but in colder water especially, this trailer excels because of a lot of plastics. With their density, they'll kind of stiffen up and they won't react well in those lower water temperatures. But with these twin tails, no matter if it's a warmer month or a colder month, that twin tail is going to be that consistent action you're looking for on the fall. And even when you're dragging it extremely slow, it'll always have that secondary action of that trailer. As far as the sizes go, on this open water finesse jig, I will always opt for that 4-inch size. As you can see, it really matches the profile of that jig extremely well and gets bit for me really good. That one right there is a great numbers jig, and it also can yield some really big fish. Now, when I am throwing this War Eagle finesse jig I just talked to y'all about, I will actually bump up to the 5-inch Gary Yamamoto twin tail grub, and it kind of makes that finesse, that War Eagle one, a little bit more compact and just fills out the profile of that jig because it's a little bit bigger. And I just think that 5-inch on this one gets me a little bit bigger bite when I am putting it into the cover. So briefly, I want to touch on where I am throwing these jigs. Pretty much any rock bank, whether that be chunk rock, kind of slate rock, or even just little pebble rock or gravel, I'll throw these on. I love throwing these on secondary points this time of year, catching those fish in this transition period when they are moving back into the pockets following that bait. A jig is a great way to capitalize on some bigger fish. And like I said earlier with the trailers, and even previously on this week at Norman, I noticed these fish were throwing up a lot of orange crawfish. So I simply got my orange double tail grubs out, put it on the back of that jig, and immediately increased the number of bites I was getting just because I was kind of matching the hatch a little bit better. So that's something to note when a lot of people are talking about having all these different jigs and having a box of this one's blue, this one has a little bit of red. I typically keep it pretty simple, and I prefer to just kind of modify the trailer rather than doing the entire jig, because I personally don't want to have to carry 100 jigs. I'd rather have 5 to 10 jigs and have a different assortment of plastics so I can match the hatch when I do see its needed fit. So hopefully these couple tips really help y'all in your jig fishing. And if you are interested in getting some of these jigs, and mainly the trailers and the setups, the Dugout Bait and Tackle has a great supply of all G Loomis and Shimano products, along with all the Gary Yamamoto plastics you'll need out there on the water. So please give them a visit on their online store or their in-person location off Highway 41. Let them know I sent you, and we'll see y'all in the next video. Please like and subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated.